Tessari Prime was a beautiful planet, full of green skies, silver mountains, and long rivers that shone like glass. Its people, the Tessari, were proud, tall, and elegant. For thousands of years they lived in balance. But now, everything was breaking. Two major clans, the Solari Union and the Cathari Republic, had gone to war. It started with a political disagreement. Then came protests. Then came bombs, soldiers, and fire. Cities burned. Fields turned black. Refugees filled the roads. The Tessari government, watching from the capital city of Tirvasa, knew they were losing control. They had only one hope left: the Galactic Union. "Send peacekeepers," pleaded High Speaker Valtor in a message, sent to the Galactic Union's central hub. "We need calm. We need protection. We need peace." The Union heard the call, but they were already dealing with many problems. Pirates in Sector 9, food riots on Cravon 4, and border skirmishes on the edge of Drexen space. Still, they could not ignore the plea. Tessari Prime was important, rich in resources, valuable in trade. But sending their own troops would be too risky. So, a decision was made, one that would change the galaxy forever. "Send the humans," said one of the senior Union officers. "Humans?" asked another. "Yes," the officer replied. "They're new members, from the death world called Earth. Let's see what they can do." No one argued. The order was given. 2 days later, the sky above Tessari Prime split open. A massive starship entered orbit, black and red, its engines glowing like suns. It was called the HSS Omen, a human peacekeeping vessel from Earth. It carried Crimson Unit, a human task force trained for planetary stabilization. On the ground, Tessari citizens stared up in confusion. Where were the soft-looking diplomats, the smiling mediators? Instead, dropships came down like falling stars. When the doors opened, the Tessari took a step back. Humans walked out in thick armor. Their visors glowed red. Their weapons were large and heavy. Machines rolled behind them, tanks, drones, and walking steel suits that hummed with energy. One of the Tessari officers whispered, This is not peace. This is war." But the humans did not fire. They did not shout. They simply walked in tight lines and began setting up a base. At the front stood their commander, a woman named Captain Elena Rourke. She removed her helmet, showing a scarred face and cold eyes. "I am Captain Rourke of Crimson Unit," she said. "You asked for peace. We are here to bring it." High Speaker Valtor arrived to meet them. He wore silver robes and carried a symbol of his people's authority. "Captain," he began politely, "I fear there has been a mistake. We asked for peacekeepers, diplomats, negotiators." Rourke nodded. "Yes, and you got us. We are peacekeepers, human style." The High Speaker frowned. "But you brought weapons, war machines, soldiers." Rourke looked him in the eye. "We come from a world where peace never lasted unless it was protected," she said. "We don't keep peace with words alone. We keep it with presence, with strength, and with clear consequences." The High Speaker did not understand, but he nodded. Anyway, within hours, the humans set up a fortified zone between the two warring factions. It was called Safe Line 1. No one was allowed to cross it. Hover drones patrolled the sky. Human soldiers marched in rotations. Automated turrets locked onto anything that moved too fast. The Solari and Cathari factions both sent spies. Those spies never returned. Not because they were killed, but because they were captured, questioned, and then sent back with a clear message. "Try again, and next time we won't talk." Tessari media outlets began reporting strange things. The war zones were suddenly quiet. Bombing stopped. Snipers vanished. People started asking, "What are these humans doing?" They soon found out. Captain Rourke called a meeting with both warring faction leaders. They arrived separately, full of suspicion. Guards stood behind them. Rourke walked in alone without a weapon. "We're not here to take sides," she began. "We're here to stop the bleeding." Salary leader Zivan growled, "You can't just come and control our war." Rourke stared him down. "Watch me." Cathari warlord. Tavan smirked. "If you stand in our way, we'll go through you." Rourke raised one eyebrow. Then she pulled out a small hollow pad. It showed live footage from earlier that day. A human. Drone disabling an entire Cathari weapons cache in under 2 minutes. "We already did," she said calmly. Both leaders were silent. Rourke continued. "You have 2 choices. Work toward peace, or watch your armies disappear one piece at a time." They left the meeting pale and shaken. Across Tasari Prime, word spread quickly. People began to respect and fear the humans. Not because they were cruel, but because they meant what they said. They didn't issue warnings twice. They didn't shoot first, but they always finished last. And they never, ever backed down. A young Tasari soldier, barely of age, wrote in his journal. "They do not shout. They do not beg. They move like stone and fire. They are not here to speak peace. They are here to make it real." Inside the human base, Crimson Unit remained alert. Their armor stayed on. Their weapons were always charged. But they also built shelters for refugees. They handed out food and water. Human medics treated wounded on both sides. They protected civilians with the same force they used to stop soldiers. Tasari people began to change their view. "These are not conquerors," said one elderly citizen. "They are guardians." A young girl approached a human soldier one evening. She offered him a flower. He knelt down, took off his helmet, and smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. The next day, pictures of that moment were all over Tasari news feeds. The message was clear. These humans came locked and loaded, but their hearts were not made of iron. In orbit, the Galactic Union watched everything. Reports came in daily. No battles, no fires, no new casualties, just order. Strict, but peaceful. One Union delegate whispered to another, "Are they really peacekeepers?" The other answered, "No. There's something else, something old, something forgotten." The first delegate asked, "Should we stop them?" The second said, "Would you dare?" On the 10th day, Captain Rourke stood before her troops. "The mission has just begun," she said. "We will hold the line. We will protect the innocent. We will not let this planet fall." She paused, then added with a small smile, "And if anyone asks what we're doing here, tell them we're keeping the peace. The only way humans know how." The soldiers nodded. Behind them, a red flag waved in the wind, marked with Earth's symbol and a motto in bold letters: "Stand strong, speak clear, never back down." The days after the humans arrived were strange for the people of Tasari Prime. Everything changed too fast. Before, the air was full of gunfire and screams. Cities were always under attack. People didn't sleep at night, afraid of explosions or assassins. Now there was only silence. The 2 biggest cities, Narask and Kolaven, sat on opposite sides of the new human zone. Both were home to soldiers and rebels from the Salary Union and the Cathari Republic. Both cities waited, ready for war. But nothing came. Instead, drones flew overhead, silent, watching, always watching. If anyone pointed a weapon in the wrong direction, a red laser dot would appear on their chest. It didn't fire. It just waited. But that red dot told everyone one thing. "We see you. Be smart." In the city of Narask, a Cathari captain named Talo Rin watched the skies. "These humans, they do not sleep?" he asked. "No, sir," said his lieutenant. "They rotate shifts. Machines take over when the soldiers rest." Talo Rin frowned. "And they haven't attacked us?" "No, sir. They only block movement." No one is allowed near the human zone, he growled. They don't scare me. But later that night, when a scout tried to sneak across the human border, a metal drone dropped from the sky. It landed silently, then sent out an electric pulse that knocked the scout unconscious in seconds. The humans didn't even take him prisoner. They sent him back with a simple warning card. You are alive, because we let you be. Talorin didn't. Send more scouts after that. Across the border in Kolaven, the Solari leader, General Keza, held a secret meeting. We must test them, she said. Are they truly as dangerous as they seem? Or is this all a show? A group of elite Solari fighters were chosen. They wore cloaking armor, the best technology the planet had. At night, they moved toward the human zone, silent as shadows. But the moment they crossed a sensor line, the sky lit up. Light drones turned night into day. Stun bombs dropped from trees. Hidden nets trapped half the team. No shots were fired. No one died. In less than 5 minutes, the entire elite team was captured. The next day, humans returned all prisoners, clean, unharmed, but embarrassed. They also delivered a small gift box to General Kesa. Inside the box was a card. Peace does not come to those who test the fire. News of these events spread quickly. The people of Tessari Prime were confused. They had lived in war for decades. Now these humans came, stronger, colder, different, and the violence was fading. Journalists tried to learn more. One reporter, named Delva Nix, was allowed inside the human zone to speak with Captain Rourke. Delva expected a war camp. Instead, she found something else. There were training grounds, yes, soldiers, weapons, drills. But there were also medical tents, food stations, and even playgrounds for children. Captain Rourke sat at a small desk looking at a map. She didn't wear her helmet. Delva asked, Captain, people say you came for war, not peace. Is that true? Rourke looked at her, calm and quiet. We train for war so we can stop it faster, she said. No one fears a soft hand, but everyone respects a strong one. Delva asked, You could have attacked both sides. Why didn't you? Rourke smiled faintly. Because peace isn't about destruction, it's about control. You don't need to kill to win. You just need them to know they'd lose. Delva's report shocked the planet. She called the humans the Silent Wall, a force that didn't move unless pushed, but never broke. Inside the Galactic Union, more delegates started paying attention. One alien ambassador said, They're not doing peacekeeping, they're doing occupation. But another replied, Then why are both sides still alive? Why has no one died since they arrived? The answer was silence. For the first time in Tessari Prime's history, the fighting stopped. The sound of bombs was replaced by the sound of water running, birds chirping, and children laughing. But peace doesn't sit well with those who love power. 1 week after the human arrival, an explosion hit the human zone, a car bomb placed just outside a supply building. 3 humans were injured. One Tessari civilian lost a leg. Rourke stood over the scene, face like stone. This was a message, said her second-in-command, Sergeant Keller. Rourke nodded. Then let's send one back. That night, Crimson Unit launched Operation Calm. Thunder. It wasn't a war. It was a message. First, human spy drones tracked the attackers. They found the hidden base in an abandoned warehouse deep in Kolaven. Next, stealth units dropped in from orbit. Silent, invisible, fast. They didn't use guns. Instead, they used EMP pulses to shut down machines, sleep gas to knock out guards, sonic grenades to make weapons unusable. In 12 minutes, the entire base was disabled. Not one person died. When the attackers woke up, they were tied, blindfolded, and surrounded by their own broken weapons. A speaker played one message on loop. We do not start wars, but we end them quickly. Tessari leaders panicked. General Keza demanded an emergency meeting with Captain Rourke. You can't just strike our territory like that, she shouted. Rourke replied, You bombed our zone first. That wasn't an official order. Rourke leaned forward. And this wasn't an official invasion. Keza stared at her. You think you're the law? No, said Rourke. But right now, I'm the only one making people stop killing each other. If you want to change that, go ahead, see how far you get. There was silence. Then Keza stood up and left. She didn't argue again. Meanwhile, among the common Tessari, support for the humans grew. Shops reopened near the human zone. Farmers began returning to fields. Some people even volunteered to help the humans with rebuilding efforts. A young boy, Rico, helped human engineers repair a broken water pipe. When asked why, he simply said, "They don't shoot for fun. They shoot to stop bad things. I like them." Even in the Solari and Cathari armies, soldiers began questioning their leaders. "We've been fighting for years," one said. "And all it took was 50 humans to stop it?" "No," another replied. "It took 50 humans who weren't afraid to act." By the end of the second week, the fighting was nearly gone. The Union sent a scout to observe the situation. He returned with one sentence. "It is not peace like we know it, but it is peace." And somewhere deep in space, another message was sent to Earth. Mission success. Hostilities frozen. Await further orders. Back on Tessari Prime, Captain Rourke looked at the new map. Red zones, formerly active war zones, were now marked in blue. Blue meant safe. She placed her finger on the map and tapped gently. "This," she whispered, "is how humans keep the peace." Behind her, the flag of Earth waved proudly, and the words under it said, "The war on Tessari Prime had stopped. Not ended. Just stopped. No more bombings. No more ambushes. No more battles." The people whispered about the humans. They were not like any other species in the Galactic Union. They came with weapons, machines, and cold discipline, but they also brought food, medicine, and safety. But peace is not easy. And some leaders did not want peace. They wanted power. In a dark room inside the city of Narask, Cathari Commander Darrell Vorn met with his advisors. "These humans are turning our people soft," he said, angry. "Even our own soldiers speak of surrender." An advisor replied, "They are not like us, Commander. They fight without fighting. They win without war." Darrell slammed his fist on the table. "Then we must remind them. Tessari Prime belongs to us, not to Earth, not to humans." One of the others hesitated. "What do you suggest?" Darrell's eyes narrowed. "We strike their leader, quietly. If their captain falls, they will run." It was a foolish plan, but no one dared argue. That night, under a moonless sky, a team of elite assassins left Narask. They were trained in silence, masters of shadow. Their goal was clear: kill Captain Elena Rourke. They moved like ghosts, crossing the outer defenses of the human zone. Their cloaking suits made them nearly invisible to Tessari sensors, but they had forgotten one thing. Humans do not rely on sight. They rely on strategy. The assassins reached Rourke's command building without being seen. They placed explosives near the entrance, ready to breach. But the moment the first wire was cut, boom! A flashbang exploded in their faces. A second later, shock nets dropped from the ceiling. Automated turrets spun toward them. Heavy boots hit the ground. Human soldiers surrounded them, weapons drawn. "On the ground!" barked Sergeant Keller. Assassins tried to fight, but it was useless. In less than 30 seconds, all were captured. None were killed. Captain Rourke stood in front of the tied-up assassins. She looked tired, but calm. "You had your chance," she said. "You thought we weren't watching. You thought you could sneak in, plant a bomb, kill a leader, and walk away." She leaned closer. Her voice dropped. "This is not your world anymore." The next morning, Captain Rourke called a public meeting. Tessari. Citizens gathered in the safe zone, watching on big screens. The Cathari and Solari leaders were also invited, though neither expected what came next. Rourke stood alone in front of a human flag. Behind her were the captured assassins, alive, unharmed, and silent. "I know some of you still want war," she said. "I know some of you think peace is weakness. That fear is better than trust." She held up a piece of shrapnel, the kind used in the bomb placed at her door. This was aimed at me. It didn't work. She paused, looking at the cameras. "But it hurt a Tasari child who came to bring water to our engineers. Her name is Mira. She lost her arm." Gasps filled the crowd. Rourke's voice turned cold. "You didn't hurt me. You hurt her." "And I don't forgive that." She nodded once. Behind her, screens showed the human operation, every step of the capture, clear, fast, controlled. "We could have killed them," Rourke said. "We didn't. That's not our way. But make no mistake, will protect the peace. At any cost." She pointed at the screen. "Let this be your only warning." That message was heard across the planet. In Cathari military camps, some soldiers laid down their weapons. In Solari command centers, leaders held secret talks. Among the people, something changed. The humans were no longer strangers. They were protectors. Meanwhile, inside the human zone, Crimson Unit began Operation Rebuild. They sent engineers to help restore power in nearby towns. Medics helped hospitals. Human drones cleared roads and rebuilt schools. They didn't ask for permission. They just did it. A young boy named Rico, who once gave a flower to a human soldier, now worked with the engineers every day. "They don't act like heroes," he told a news reporter. "They act like workers. But they make everything safe." Not. Everyone understood. Inside the Galactic Union, some alien delegates grew nervous. "They're interfering too much," said a Drexari ambassador. "They are not keeping peace. They are controlling it." A human representative, Ambassador Hayes, replied calmly, "We don't control. We stabilize. You sent us to stop a war. It stopped." "But at what cost?" the Drexari asked. Hayes leaned forward. "No one else was willing to come. So we did it our way. The Deathworlder way." That word, Deathworlder, was whispered across the chamber. It was both insult and praise. Back on Tasari Prime, something unexpected happened. The Cathari Republic sent a request to Captain Rourke. They wanted to meet privately, no weapons, no soldiers. Rourke agreed, but under one rule. The meeting would happen inside the human zone, under human guard. The Cathari delegation arrived nervous and silent. Their leader, Commander Vela, had once called the humans monsters in armor. Now, she stood face to face with Captain Rourke. "Why did you agree to this meeting?" Vela asked. Rourke replied, "Because you asked. That means something." Vela hesitated, then said, "We want to stop fighting, but we can't do it alone. Our enemies will think we are weak." Rourke looked her in the eyes. "Let us help," Vela whispered. "But why? Why do you care?" Rourke was silent for a moment. Then she spoke. "Because we've been you. A long time ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves, and we swore never again." Vela said nothing more. But when she left the human zone, she carried a draft of a peace agreement. The next day, the Solari also sent a message. They, too, wanted to talk. Suddenly, the idea of peace didn't seem so impossible. In the human zone, Crimson Unit prepared for possible betrayal. They didn't trust easily, but they were ready for anything. As Sergeant Keller said, "We train for war, so we don't have to fight one." Captain Rourke stood on the command platform, watching the sun rise over the now quiet battlefield. "They tried to cross the line," she said. "We held it. We didn't fire. But now they know the line will hold." And across Tasari Prime, one name grew louder each day. Humans. Not as invaders, not as warriors, but as something new. Peacekeepers from a death world. The two biggest armies on Tasari Prime, the Solari Union and the Cathari Republic, had finally stopped fighting. They didn't stop because they trusted each other. They stopped because of the humans. Captain Elena Rourke and her Crimson Unit had made it clear. Peace is not a suggestion. It's a rule, and we will enforce it. Now, for the first time in years, leaders from both factions sat down in one place. The table was inside the human zone, guarded by human soldiers. Above them flew the flag of Earth, dark blue with a silver globe and 3 words written underneath: Order, Strength, Unity. Captain Rourke didn't smile when she walked in. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to make peace last. "Let's begin," she said simply. The room went quiet. Salary General Keza and Cathari Commander Vela sat across from each other. They did not speak at first. Years of hatred were hard to forget. But then Captain Rourke placed a tablet on the table. It showed live drone footage, burned villages, empty cities, starving children, wounded civilians. "This is what your war has done," Rourke said, "not just to each other, but to your people." She tapped the screen again. It changed to something else. Human engineers rebuilding a bridge. Human medics helping a clinic. Human soldiers planting trees. "This," she continued, "is what peace looks like. And it's your choice what tomorrow will be." There was silence again. Then Vela spoke. "We don't know how to fix this." Rourke nodded. "That's why we're here." Over the next few days, something new began on Tasari Prime, rebuilding. The humans didn't wait. They got to work immediately. Crimson Unit had engineers, doctors, teachers, and even farmers. They spread out across the planet, helping towns and villages no one had visited in years. The humans brought tools, machines, and food supplies. But more than that, they brought discipline and safety. They guarded the roads. They stopped bandits. They fixed broken power lines. Wherever they went, people came out of hiding. A small village leader said, "When I saw the human machines, I thought it was another army. But they came to repair the well. I cried." Children followed the human convoys, curious and amazed. They had never seen mechs up close, giant armored suits that walked like men and could lift boulders with one hand. But the human pilots let the children watch. Sometimes they even waved. One girl painted flowers on the leg of a mech. The pilot left it there. In the capital city Tirvasa, the high speaker Valtor gave a public statement. "The humans came with weapons," he said, "but they also came with hands that heal and minds that build. Let us learn from them." For the first time, both the Salary and Kethari governments agreed on something. They would sign a ceasefire treaty. But there was one condition. They wanted human observers to stay, to help keep order. Captain Rourke was surprised. "You want us to stay?" she asked. Vela answered, "We don't just want it, we need it. You've done more in 3 weeks than we could in 30 years. Rourke nodded slowly. "Then we'll stay, but not forever. One day you'll protect your own. Peace." To prepare for that day, Rourke started a new program, the Tasari Peacekeeper Training School. It would train Solari and Cathari together in human methods of defense, discipline, and crisis control. Many were unsure. Could these enemies work side by side? But when the first class began, more than 200 young men and women showed up, half Solari, half Cathari, all volunteers. They trained under Sergeant Keller and other human soldiers. The rules were strict. No insults, no fighting, no old flags. Only one badge on their uniforms, a small human symbol with a blue line across it. That line stood for peace. One trainee, a young Cathari named Talo, asked Keller, "Why do you care? Why teach us this?" Keller thought for a moment, then said, "Because our world was once like yours. Fighting, broken, full of hate. We survived by learning to protect peace like it was the most valuable thing on earth." Talo asked, "And is it?" Keller smiled. "Yes. More than gold. more than power. Peace is the only thing worth fighting for, so no one else has to. The Galactic Union continued to watch from afar. Some were impressed, others were afraid. A council member said, "They build peace, yes, but with guns behind every smile." Ambassador Hayes replied, "Guns don't make peace. Courage does, but courage needs help, and help sometimes looks like armor." Still, debates continued. Should humans be allowed to do peacekeeping their way, or were they a dangerous example? But the Tasari didn't care about politics anymore. They cared about results, and every day they saw results. Even alien scholars came to study what the humans were doing. They called it the Earth model of peacekeeping. They wrote down notes about human patrol formations, civilian protection strategies, conflict de-escalation methods, emotional control training, and their famous motto, "If you want peace, prepare for war." One alien professor said, "They do not love violence. They simply understand it, and they control it better than anyone." As the weeks passed, something amazing happened. The once dead cities of Narask and Kolaven began to wake. Up shops reopened. Schools restarted. People laughed again. Human drones planted seeds in old farming fields. Mechs helped build homes. Refugees returned. In one village, a statue was built of a human soldier kneeling beside a wounded Tasari child. Under it, a message read, "They came armed, but left us whole." Captain Rourke stood with her team at the top of a hill, watching a convoy roll across the peaceful land. "3 weeks ago," she said, "this road was a battlefield." Sergeant Keller nodded. "Now it's a lifeline." She looked at him. "We're not peacekeepers in the usual sense." "No," he agreed. "We're something else." She smiled slightly. "Maybe that's what this galaxy needs." At night, when the stars shined bright over Tasari Prime, human outposts lit up like beacons, not to show power, but to show presence. The message was clear. You are safe. We're here until you can do this on your own. And slowly, the people of Tasari Prime started to believe it. They believed because they saw the truth. These humans were not conquerors. They were not heroes. They were just people from a harsh world who understood that peace doesn't come from talking. It comes from standing firm, protecting the weak, and never ever walking away. It had been nearly 4 months since the humans landed on Tasari Prime. 4 months since Crimson Unit dropped from the sky, locked and loaded, and turned a war zone into a place of peace. Now, the sun rose over a world slowly healing. Captain. Elena Rourke stood on a balcony in Tirvasa, overlooking the city. Down below, she saw new roads, clean buildings, and people moving without fear. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the fresh air. "We did good," Sergeant Keller said, walking up beside her. Rourke nodded. "We did, but it's not over yet." He raised an eyebrow. "Trouble?" She opened her tablet and showed him a report. It had one word at the top: Redmark. Redmark was a small region on the far side of Tasari Prime. It had stayed quiet during most of the war. But now intelligence showed strange activity, weapons smuggling, militia movements, and off-world signals. Captain Rourke called a meeting. "The peace is working," she told her unit. "But some don't want it. There's a new faction rising. Former warlords, arms dealers, and mercenaries. They're gathering in Redmark." "Who's leading them?" Keller asked. Rourke showed a picture on the screen. A reptilian figure in dark armor, eyes full of hate. Name's Varric, exiled from the Cathari army. He calls his group the True Hand. He believes humans have taken over. He wants us gone. Lieutenant Diaz narrowed her eyes. "So he's planning a new war?" Rourke nodded. "Worse, he's planning to make us look like the enemy. Bombings, fake attacks, civilian deaths. He wants to blame it all on us." The team went silent. Then Sergeant Keller stood up. Then we shut it down. Fast, hard, clean. Rourke gave one sharp nod. Crimson unit rolls out tonight. The drop into Red Mark was quiet. No big ships, no banners, just stealth shuttles in the dead of night. Crimson unit moved like ghosts. Black armor, silent weapons, night vision glowing faint green. They found Varek's camps quickly. One after another they moved in. Target located hostiles, neutralized, data recovered. They didn't leave bodies lying around. They left messages. Each time they painted a simple mark in human red paint. The symbol for Earth Peace Division. The message was clear. We see you. We won't let you destroy this peace. But Varek wasn't just hiding in caves. He had help. Off-world mercenaries. Black market tech. Even a few corrupt alien officials sending him supplies. And one night it happened. A convoy carrying food and medical supplies was bombed. The explosion killed 40 civilians. Someone filmed it and edited it to show a human drone overhead before the blast. The footage spread fast. On Tasari Prime, people panicked. Humans betrayed us. They only came to control us. Crimson Unit didn't wait. They sent engineers to the site. They scanned everything, and they found the truth. The drone wasn't human. It was a fake, a copy. The bomb used chemicals humans never use, but damage was done. Fear was rising. Rourke called a planet-wide broadcast. She stood in uniform, no weapons, no soldiers behind her, just her voice. People of Tasari Prime, she said, we came here to help, not to rule, not to hurt. Yes, we are from a death world. Yes, we are trained for war. But we choose peace every day we are here. This bombing, this lie, was made to turn you against each other again. Don't let them win. We will find those responsible, and we will bring them to justice, because that's what peacekeepers do. Not with empty words, but with action. The broadcast reached every city, town, and village. Some still doubted, but many remembered what life was like before the humans came. And in the Peacekeeper Training Academy, dozens of young Tessari cadets stood up and saluted the screen. We're with you, they said. Captain Rourke knew time was short. Varek had to be stopped before he struck again. Crimson Unit tracked him to an old weapons facility hidden deep in the Iron Hills. He had gathered hundreds of fighters, armored transports, and orbital missiles. If he launched them, the whole planet could be pulled into war again. There was no time for talk. Rourke gave one order. End it. The battle was fast and brutal. Human gunships screamed overhead, dropping EMP blasts and smoke rounds. Mechs stomped. Through the hills, firing non-lethal stun cannons that knocked out entire squads. Crimson Unit moved with precision, cutting through defenses like lightning. Inside the facility, Keller's team faced Varek himself. The alien was fierce. He had a plasma blade and combat armor, but Keller was a Deathworlder. He fought hand-to-hand, dodging strikes, hitting pressure points. At the end, Varek lay on the ground, breathing hard. You'll never control us, he hissed. Keller looked down at him. We don't want control. We want peace. You're just too afraid to believe it. Varek roared and reached for a detonator. But a shot rang out. Rourke had entered behind him. No more games, she said. With Varek's fall, the true hand collapsed. His fighters surrendered. His tech was seized. Rourke made sure the captured missiles were dismantled in front of the Tasari media. She handed control of the facility to the new peacekeeper forces, led by Captain Talo, the young cadet they had trained. Now it's your job to protect your world, she said. He saluted. With honor, ma'am, and with strength. In the days that followed, peace returned stronger than before. The people of Tasari saw what humans really were. Not monsters, not invaders, guardians. They had arrived locked and loaded. But they hadn't fired first. They had fought only to protect. And then they helped rebuild everything they touched. A monument was built outside Tirvasa. It was simple, a pair of human boots, a helmet, and a plaque. They came armed, but they stayed to heal. To the peacekeepers from Earth, the Galactic Union finally spoke again. They sent a delegation to Tasari Prime expecting protests, fear, or demands to remove humans. Instead, they found a united people, strong, proud, and safe. A Tasari leader said clearly, "We asked for peacekeepers. The humans came. They were not what we expected, but they were exactly what we needed." Back on her ship, Captain Rourke received a new message from Earth Command. Mission complete. New orders. Return for debriefing. She looked out the window, watching the peaceful world fade in the distance. "Think they'll be okay without us?" Diaz asked. Rourke smiled. "They have everything they need. We just gave them time to remember who they are." As the Earthship left Tasari space, its engines hummed softly. But in every corner of the planet, the people remembered the humans, not for their weapons, but for the shield they raised, the hands they offered, and the peace they fought to protect. And across the stars, the legend spread. Deathworlders don't come to rule. They come to finish wars and make sure they don't start again.